You walked in to buy gifts. You're surrounded by 1,000 people doing the same thing. It's late December, peak holiday rush. The mall is packed. The Christmas music is playing. The smell of cinnamon pretzels fills the air. And right now, at this exact moment, you're standing in what fire scientists call a fatal architecture convergence zone. That's not marketing speak. That's not fear-mongering. That's the technical term. You think apocalypse means nuclear winter, zombie hordes, EMP blackouts, global collapse. Wrong. The apocalypse is personal. It's not the world ending, it's your world ending. And it happens in shopping malls. On a Tuesday afternoon. It happens in hotels, during corporate Christmas parties. It happens in apartment buildings, at 3 in the morning, when your neighbor's space heater decides to become an incendiary device. Today, I'm going to show you why that mall you're in right now is a potential death trap, and exactly 5 practical rules to increase your chances of getting out alive when everyone else becomes a statistic. Because here's what they don't tell you. At the mall entrance, you're in a windowless labyrinth filled with tons of polyurethane foam, synthetic fabrics, and plastic merchandise. The ceiling is loaded with PVC piping. The walls are lined with flammable insulation, and every single person around you is going to run to the exact same exit when the fire starts. Let's talk about the Station nightclub, February 20th, 2003. West Warwick, Rhode Island. A band called Great White was playing. They set off some pyrotechnics for the show. Sparks hit polyurethane foam on the walls. And here's where the physics gets absolutely brutal. Within 90 seconds, conditions inside that building exceeded survivability limits. Not 90 minutes, 90 seconds. The smoke was visible in the doorways in just over 60 seconds. The entire structure was engulfed in 6 minutes. 100 people died. The math is simple and horrifying. Most victims were found piled at the main entrance. They ran to where they came in. Natural human behavior. Now here's the part that should make you reconsider your holiday shopping plans. That fire spread so fast because modern materials are essentially solid gasoline. When polyurethane burns, it doesn't just make smoke. It manufactures hydrogen cyanide, HCN, the same compound used in gas chambers. And it's 35 times more toxic than carbon monoxide. Exposure to 90 parts per million results in fatality within 30 minutes. 300 parts per million, and incapacitation occurs within minutes. But here's the critical detail. You won't experience the coughing and struggling depicted in entertainment media. Your mitochondria cease producing ATP. Cellular respiration stops. Your brain loses function. You experience confusion, then vertigo, then loss of consciousness. The progression from initial exposure to incapacitation can occur in under 60 seconds in modern structure fires. And if you're thinking, well, the sprinkler system will save me, I've got some data that's backed by NFPA research. Fire sprinklers fail to operate effectively in 7 to 12% of fires large enough to activate them. And here's the critical factor. 59 to 63% of those failures happen because someone turned the system off. Maintenance, repairs, building renovations. Corporate holiday parties in hotels with temporarily disabled systems. Human error accounts for 93% of sprinkler failures. Not equipment malfunction, human stupidity. Now let's talk about an American example that hits closer to home. December 2nd, 2016. Oakland, California. The Ghost Ship Warehouse. 36 people died at an electronic music event. The building had been illegally converted from an industrial warehouse into an artist collective and event space. No smoke detectors, no sprinklers, no proper exits. The structure was packed with flammable materials, wooden furniture, extension cords running everywhere. When the fire started, it moved so fast that victims on the second floor had no warning and almost no chance to escape down a narrow makeshift staircase. Oakland Fire Department described the interior as like a maze almost. First responders arrived within 3 minutes, but they could only advance about 20 to 25 feet into the building through zero visibility smoke and constant obstacles. Most victims never made it to the exits. They were found piled in areas where they'd been overcome by smoke toxicity, before they could navigate the cluttered maze to safety. This is what I mean by personal apocalypse. Those people in Oakland went to a concert that night thinking about music and art, not survival, not evacuation protocols, not the physics of smoke toxicity. They weren't preparing for nuclear war or societal collapse. They were living normal lives right up until the moment normal ended. That's the apocalypse nobody talks about. The one that doesn't announce itself. The one that looks like a regular Friday night until smoke fills the stairwell and exits don't exist, and your only escape route is a window too high to survive the jump. You don't need a meteor strike for your world to end. You just need to be in the wrong building at the wrong time, with the wrong crowd, moving in the wrong direction. Let's talk about Kemerovo for context on how this happens globally. March 25th, 2018. The Winter Cherry Shopping Mall in Siberia. 64 people died. 41 of them were children watching cartoons in the cinema on the 4th floor. The fire alarm had been switched off by security. The emergency exits were blocked. The building was described as a labyrinth with few windows. One main staircase, one lift shaft, one escalator. When the fire started, families in the cinema received no alarm. No lights, no evacuation announcements. Just a man running into the theater screaming for people to get out. The children called their parents on their phones. Everything burns and the doors are locked in the cinema. Those were real words from real kids who died that day. The fire reached 700 degrees Celsius. Now let's talk about your local mall. Right now, late December, peak shopping season. The building is at or above capacity. The food court is packed. The stores are jammed. Every corridor is a river of people flowing toward the center. And here's what happens when fire breaks out in this environment. You lose orientation immediately. No windows means no external reference points. When the lights go out and smoke fills the air, your brain does something predictable. You run to familiarity. You run to the main entrance, the place you came in, the place everyone else came in. This is called the bottleneck effect, and it's killed more people in fires than the actual flames. At the station, 275 people tried to evacuate through the front entrance. Only the first 90 made it out. The rest created a human dam. Bodies piled on bodies, people compressed so tightly that firefighters couldn't separate them. Not because the fire trapped them, because human density exceeded structural capacity, because exits become deadly choke points when everyone runs to the same door. The science here is brutally simple. In high-stress evacuations, crowd density can reach 5 people per square meter. That's catastrophically beyond safety standards. At that density, you're not moving, you're being moved. The crowd becomes a fluid. Individual choice disappears. You're carried by force vectors you can't control. And if someone falls, if there's an obstacle, if the door jams, you become part of a compression event that can bend steel and tear clothing. Not trampling. Compression asphyxiation. Your chest can't expand, you can't breathe, and you die standing up, compressed by the weight of panic. Now here's where this gets personal for you. Hotels, corporate Christmas parties, New Year's Eve celebrations. The exact same physics apply, with one additional complication. If a fire starts in the apartment or hotel room below you, the stairwell becomes a chimney. It's called the stack effect. Hot air and toxic gases rise through the building's vertical passages. Open your door to the hallway and you're inviting death into your room. That smoke isn't just hot air. It's a chemical weapons cocktail. Burning synthetic carpet releases hydrogen cyanide. Burning vinyl releases hydrochloric acid. Burning PVC releases chlorine gas. You're not escaping a fire. So far, we've seen how fast modern fires spread, how toxic smoke kills faster than flames, and how crowds become deadly in panic scenarios. Now, let's talk about the holiday-specific risks. Before I give you the survival algorithm that could save your life, let's talk about Christmas trees for a second. Because the statistics are absolutely savage. The NFPA reports an average of 143 home fires started by Christmas trees each year. 7 deaths, 13 injuries, $15 million in property damage. And here's what makes Christmas tree fires so lethal. They're 5 times more deadly per fire than average home fires. Because a dried out tree is essentially a gasoline-soaked torch waiting for ignition. The US Fire Administration categorizes them as almost explosive in how fast they burn. Video tests demonstrate a Christmas tree fully engulfed in flames in 30 seconds. 30 seconds from ignition to room flashover. December isn't just the most wonderful time of year, it's statistically the most dangerous. Christmas Day and Christmas Eve rank second and third for home cooking fires. 30% of all home fires occur in December, January, and February. 38% of home fire deaths happen in those months. Not because winter is cursed, because we fill our homes with flammable decorations. We overload electrical circuits. We leave cooking unattended because guests are over. And we disable smoke detectors because they're annoying when we're cooking a big meal. Candle fires peak in December. 12% of all candle fires for the year happen in December. Heating equipment fires spike because people use space heaters, fireplaces, and heating systems they haven't touched in months. And then there's the human factor. Alcohol consumption increases, attention decreases. People are distracted by guests, by cooking multiple dishes, by trying to create the perfect holiday experience. Smoke detectors get disabled because they keep activating during cooking. Fire extinguishers remain in the garage, not the kitchen. Evacuation plans don't exist because it's just family coming over. And that's how preventable fires become fatal fires. Here's the algorithm for survival in a public fire. These aren't suggestions. These are rules derived from incident analysis and fire science research. Memorize them. Rule number 1. Never trust the main entrance as your primary exit. The moment you enter any public building, shopping mall, hotel, restaurant, you identify the service exits. Look for the red or green illuminated exit signs. They're legally required, and they mark every approved exit route. The kitchen doors, the employee corridors, the emergency stairs that aren't the obvious ones. Because everyone else is going to the main entrance. You're going somewhere else. I've trained this behavior to automaticity. While my wife is shopping for clothes or my kid is on a mall ride, I'm standing there studying the evacuation map on the wall. 30 seconds, that's all it takes. You locate the "You are here" marker. You identify 2 exits. You note the fire extinguisher locations. You mentally walk the route. And as a bonus, you now know where every restroom in the building is located. It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition that becomes second nature. In the ghost ship fire, survivors were the ones who found alternate exits or broke through windows. The ones who followed the crowd to the obvious exit didn't make it. Rule number 2. In a hotel or apartment building, assess your door before opening it during a fire. Use the back of your hand, not your palm. Your palm is less sensitive to heat, and you'll burn it before you realize the danger. Check the door itself at different heights, especially near the top where hot air concentrates. Check the door handle. Check the space between the door and the frame. If any of these feel hot, the hallway is filled with fire or superheated gas. Opening that door will result in immediate exposure to conditions incompatible with survival. Stay in your room. Seal the gaps under the door with wet towels. Call emergency services and report your exact location. Break a window if you're on a lower floor for fresh air, but don't jump unless there's no other option. Wait for rescue if you're higher up. If the door feels cool, brace your shoulder against it and open slowly. Be prepared to slam it shut if heat or smoke rushes in. Rule number 3. Never use elevators during a fire. This is not a suggestion. This is a survival requirement. Elevator shafts function as vertical chimneys during fires, rapidly filling with smoke and superheated gases due to the stack effect. The doors can open directly into fire conditions on any floor. Power failures can trap you between floors in zero visibility smoke with no breathable air. Even if the elevator appears functional, fire can damage the control systems at any moment, leaving you stranded in a steel box filling with toxic gas. Emergency responders manually recall elevators to prevent civilian use during fires for exactly these reasons. Stairs only, always. And if the stairs are filled with smoke, stay low where breathable air concentrates near the floor. But understand that modern synthetic materials produce smoke so toxic that even 1 or 2 breaths can result in incapacitation. Rule number 4. Smoke is not what you think it is. You're not dealing with a campfire. This is chemical warfare. When plastics burn, they release neurotoxins. Your body doesn't get time to react with coughing and struggling. Your cells cease energy production. You experience confusion, then dizziness, then you sit down, then you're unconscious, then you're dead. The progression from initial smoke exposure to unconsciousness can occur in under 60 seconds in a modern structure fire. Rule number 5. Shopping malls and large public venues are designed for profit, not evacuation. The layout is engineered to keep you inside longer, wandering past more stores. Those corridors don't lead to exits, they lead to more corridors. More stores, more opportunities to spend money. When panic hits, that design becomes a maze with no solution. Your best strategy is to locate employees. They know the back ways, they know the service corridors. Follow staff, not crowds. Now let's talk about something nobody mentions. Sprinkler systems are often disabled or insufficient in the areas where fires actually start. Storage rooms, kitchens, mechanical spaces. The fire gets a head start before it reaches sprinklered areas. And even when sprinklers function properly, they're engineered to control fire spread, not extinguish it. Control means slowing the spread, buying time, not guaranteeing your survival if you're in the wrong location when ignition occurs. The physics of fire in public spaces is governed by 3 brutal realities: speed, toxicity, and crowd behavior. Modern materials burn faster and produce more toxic smoke than anything in human history. Your grandmother's house fire provided minutes to escape. Your modern apartment fire provides seconds. The polyurethane foam in your couch releases the same thermal energy in 3 minutes that a wooden chair releases in 30 minutes. Everything burns faster, everything burns hotter, everything kills quicker. Toxicity has fundamentally changed the equation. Older materials produced carbon monoxide and particulate smoke. Dangerous, yes, but your body had time to react. Modern synthetics produce hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, phosgene, and dozens of other neurotoxins. You don't get time to react. You get seconds between initial exposure and cognitive impairment. Research demonstrates that in modern structure, fires, victims found in escape paths often had lethal concentrations of cyanide in their blood. They weren't overcome by flames. They were poisoned by invisible gas. Crowd behavior is the final variable. Humans are predictable under stress. We run to familiar exits. We follow others. We freeze when options overwhelm us. We push when we feel trapped. And in that pushing, in that panic, we create the conditions for crowd crush. Not because anyone intends harm, because physics doesn't care about intentions. When human density exceeds safe limits, when people can't control their movement, when individuals become part of a fluid mass, people die, compressed, suffocated, trampled underfoot in a pile of bodies that blocks the exit for everyone behind them. See, this is where survival training for the big apocalypse and survival training for the personal apocalypse converge into the same skill set. The guy with a bunker full of freeze-dried food who dies in a hotel fire because he couldn't find the service stairs? He wasn't prepared. He was cosplaying preparation. Real survival isn't about the gear you stockpile. It's about the patterns you recognize. The decisions you make in the first 30 seconds when everyone else is still processing that something is wrong. The tactical bros on the forums discuss SHTF scenarios and grid down collapse, but they walk into a shopping mall and don't even glance at the fire exits. They're preparing for a movie. You need to prepare for physics. So, what do you do with this information? First, you change how you see public spaces. Every building is now a potential trap that you're mapping for exits. You're identifying service corridors. You're noting where the staff disappears to. You're counting the seconds it would take to reach alternate exits. You're teaching your family the same skills. Because in a fire, you have 1 to 2 minutes maximum to make decisions. After that, smoke and panic make rational decision-making impossible. Second, you change how you think about holidays. Those decorations near the fireplace, move them. That extension cord running under the rug, replace it with a proper outlet. That Christmas tree that's been up since Thanksgiving and is dropping needles everywhere, remove it. A dry tree is an explosive device. That candle you leave burning while you're cooking, extinguish it. That space heater you're using because one room is cold, Ensure it has automatic shutoff and isn't near curtains or furniture. Third, you test your smoke detectors immediately. Not tomorrow. Now. 70% of fire deaths occur in homes without functional smoke detectors. That's not probability, that's negligence. And while you're at it, install a carbon monoxide detector. CO poisoning presents symptoms similar to influenza until you lose consciousness. You need warning before symptoms manifest. Fourth, you create an evacuation plan for your home. Everyone knows 2 ways out of every room. Everyone knows the meeting location outside. Everyone understands not to re-enter the structure for any reason. Not pets, not phones, not valuables. Once you're out, you stay out. Firefighters die entering buildings to rescue people who went back in for retrievable objects. Fifth, and this is critical, you understand that in a real emergency, your plan might fail. Exits might be blocked. Stairs might be smoke-filled. The crowd might carry you in the wrong direction. So you need adaptability. You need the capacity to think through panic. You need to understand that survival often requires doing the counterintuitive thing. Staying in your room instead of running into a smoke-filled hallway. Breaking a window instead of opening a door. Crawling toward a service exit instead of sprinting toward the main entrance with everyone else. The apocalypse community spends countless hours debating whether solar flares will disable the grid or which caliber is optimal for societal collapse. Meanwhile, people die every single day in preventable fires because they didn't know the back hallway led to an exit. They die because they ran with the herd instead of thinking like a survivor. Your personal doomsday doesn't care about your stockpile. It cares about whether you can identify a service corridor in 60 seconds while smoke is filling the ceiling. The skills are identical: situational awareness, pattern recognition, the capacity to act while others freeze. The discipline to execute the counterintuitive action when your brain is demanding you follow the crowd. You're not preparing for a different emergency. You're preparing for all of them with the same foundational principles. The station nightclub survivors describe the same pattern. The ones who survived weren't the strongest or the fastest. They were the ones who immediately recognized the threat, immediately moved toward alternate exits, and immediately got low to avoid smoke. The ones who hesitated, who tried to gather belongings, who followed the majority toward the main door, those are the ones who died. Ghost ship survivors tell similar stories. The ones who broke windows instead of trying doors. The ones who found service exits instead of following signs. The ones who acted on pattern recognition instead of waiting for official instructions that never came. Because in a fire with no alarms and no proper exits, official help arrives too late. And here's the final piece of data that should both concern and empower you. Most fire deaths are preventable. Not theoretically preventable, practically preventable. Functional smoke detectors reduce death rates by 80%. Sprinkler systems reduce death rates by similar margins. Clear exits, proper crowd management, functional alarm systems, these aren't luxuries. They're the difference between a building full of shoppers and a building full of corpses. But you can't control whether the mall has functional sprinklers. You can't control whether the hotel has clear exits. You can't control whether the restaurant owner disabled the fire suppression system because it was too sensitive. What you can control is your awareness, your decisions, your family's preparedness. So the next time you walk into a crowded mall, a packed hotel, a busy restaurant during the holidays, take 30 seconds. Identify 2 exits. Note where the staff goes. Check where the emergency stairs are. Count the seconds to get out. Because that 30 seconds of awareness might buy you the 90 seconds you need when physics decides it's time to test whether you're a survivor or a statistic. Bottom line, test your smoke detectors today. Map exits in every building you enter. Teach your family these 5 rules. Understand that your personal apocalypse won't announce itself with sirens and warnings. It'll look like a normal day until smoke fills the ceiling and crowds block the doors. The difference between walking out and being carried out often comes down to 30 seconds of preparation and 60 seconds of decisive action. If you want to keep your family safe when systems fail and official help arrives too late, subscribe to this channel. I analyze the real risks adults face every day, not the Hollywood fantasies that sell gear. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. because the information in this video could genuinely save lives during the deadliest 48 hours of the year. Now here's the necessary disclaimer. Everything I've discussed is based on publicly available fire science research, NFPA data, and incident analysis. But I'm not a certified fire safety professional. For specific guidance on fire safety for your building, your business, your home, consult with certified fire safety professionals and your local fire department. Check your local fire codes. Follow the recommendations of the National Fire Protection Association. Attend community fire safety trainings if available. Emergency services and local authorities have specific protocols for your area. Follow their guidance. The goal is preparation before the emergency, so you can respond appropriately when it happens. Fire is physics. Smoke is chemistry. Crowds are math. And your survival depends on understanding all three before you're forced to apply that knowledge while your life is on the line. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves and your families. And remember, the best fire survival strategy is the one you practice before you need it.